to talk about luxury cruising. From suites so sweet to ships elite. Come explore the world in style with me on Luxury Cruising, the podcast.
Hey, it's Crystal here. Before we get started, did you know that there is a way for you to directly support the podcast? Head over to my website, luxurycruising.net, and you can buy me a latte, a glass of champagne, or even a whole bottle of champagne if you want. Leave me a note, and I'll be sure to give you a shout out on the next episode. That's luxurycruising.net. You can also leave me a note or ask a question. Okay, let's get on with the show. Welcome back to Luxury Cruising. I'm your host, Crystal Sodaitis, and I have something really special in store for you this week. This week, I am dropping into the podcast feed an interview that I did with Dr. Robert Beck, who is the host of the Interesting MD podcast. The Interesting MD podcast is a really fantastic podcast that highlights all of the amazing things that physicians do outside of medicine. So highly recommend wherever you're listening to this podcast, go ahead, check out the Interesting MD podcast. Robert and I go over all kinds of things. He is not a cruiser or hasn't really cruised since 1995. But amazingly, he lives in Victoria, British Columbia. And for those of you that have ever cruised to Alaska and left and returned to the United States, know that all cruise ships have to stop in a foreign port before returning to the United States. And when it comes to Alaska, Victoria is that foreign port. And what's amazing is just like when I lived in Galveston, Robert loves to look at the ships, agrees that they look beautiful coming in, and he has never stepped foot on a cruise ship other than that one that he took in 1995. So this was such a fun conversation. I just listened to it again and I was just all smiles. I knew I needed to share it with you all, my audience. And if you or anybody you know has also struggled with trying to figure out what is the right cruise for you, because we kind of get into that in the podcast, I developed a quiz just for you listeners where you can figure out what kind of cruise are you looking for? Are you looking for some adventure travel? Are you looking for more of like a chill spa getaway? Maybe you're not even sure. This is the quiz for you. So I will link it in the show notes. And until next time, I wish you safe and luxurious cruising.
So I went on my first cruise in 2001, right after 9/11, the same way it took during the COVID pandemic. Cruising has definitely evolved since the 90s, and it's hard for us to believe that 1995 was 30 years ago.
Dr. Crystal Sodaitis is an experienced healthcare executive with expertise in utilization management and Medicare Advantage.
She is also a health insurance executive, CHIE, and TEDx speaker. She is a board-certified pediatrician with fellowship training in academic general pediatrics.
I've been working really hard recently, and maybe I want to step up and go to the next level up and try that out. What would be that next level up?
I truly believe that cruising is one of the best family vacations. It doesn't have to be luxury. The value that you get from a cruise vacation is really hard to match on a land vacation. If you want one of those for a family of four, that could easily run you.
Welcome to the Interesting MD podcast, the show about what doctors do when we aren't seeing patients and how this can help us find balance and prevent burnout. I'm your host, Rob Beck. All right, welcome back to another episode of the Interesting MD podcast. This week, I have taken a little bit of a turn from death-defying and really high-intensity activities and feeling like you have to do something super extreme. But then again, not so much, because this week I have a wonderful guest whom I have listened to her podcast quite a few times already. And it's about a subject that I really know very little about. This week, I have the host of the Luxury Cruising podcast, Dr. Crystal Sodaitis. And Crystal, welcome. Thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. She's here to tell us all about why you should start cruising and why you should do it in a luxury style.
Sometimes. We can get to that. So I'm Crystal Sodaitis. I am a pediatrician, by training. As I was thinking about being on this podcast, I realized like my whole life I've done things in a not so conventional way. So I think it's very fitting that I'm on the Interesting MD podcast. In my sophomore year of college, I opted to go to Hungary for medical school. My dad is Hungarian, and there's a number of reasons why I decided to do that. And so I spent 6 years spending a lot of time traveling through Europe and parts of Asia and had a fantastic time and came back. I spent about 10 years in academic medicine, and then I transitioned to being a healthcare executive. During that time, as I was climbing the ladder of corporate health plan leadership, I became a certified life coach and started to coach neurodiverse physicians. And it was through the gift of coaching that I really began to be able to embrace the parts of my life that continue to be sort of non-traditional. I wrote a book. I compiled a collection of essays about people in the sandwich generation. I published that about 2 years ago. And then, as a passion project, about 3 months ago, I started the Luxury Cruising podcast because I love cruising and I love talking about luxury, even if I can't live in luxury most of the time.
Well, that's really fascinating. And now we're going to have like so many more episodes in the future about life coaching and doing all these other things and what it's like just traveling all over the world. So is that kind of how you kind of got that itch to cruise, or how did all of that get started?
So I went on my first cruise in 2001, right after 9/11. And so what a lot of people may not remember or realize is that the travel industry took a serious hit after 9/11, the same way it took during the COVID pandemic. And so my mom and I, who were really not that, we felt very secure, and we decided to take advantage of some very low cruise pricing that Christmas. So Christmas of 2001, I went on my very first Princess cruise. I have no idea what ship it was. I barely remember any of the islands, but I know I got the cruise bug. I absolutely loved it. And what's super ironic and sort of the way life works is I took that cruise the third year of my fellowship. And then the following August, I would start my first faculty position in Galveston, Texas, which is a huge cruise port. And I lived there for 6 years. I never stepped on a cruise ship. I loved seeing the ships come in. I loved thinking about it, but there always seemed to be somewhere else to go. My husband, who kind of is prone to motion sickness, we were worried he would be prone to seasickness. So we just never did it.
Right.
And so fast forward to about 10 years ago, we decided to celebrate my dad's 80th birthday and we decided to sort of do a land and cruise vacation. We wanted to do something for the kids, so we did Universal, and then we took a short cruise from Port Canaveral. And, my husband loved it. My daughter loved it. We had a great time. And sort of that started our cruising journey. And I immediately became obsessed with everything cruising. I just loved it. I couldn't get enough podcasts. I couldn't talk to enough people about it. I, followed cruise blogs and Facebook Lives and everything. Yeah, I just loved talking about it.
That's amazing.
And I never even considered starting a podcast until maybe a year or so ago.
Right. You and I are in the same boat. Yeah. I never really thought about starting a podcast. And then all of a sudden you start one and you get into this and you're like, oh, this is actually really fun. And I get to talk to people from all over the continent and all over the world about something that I'm passionate about and something that's fun. I'm really excited because I am fascinated by the cruise industry. I live in Victoria, British Columbia. So most of the cruises that leave from the West Coast, like Seattle, and go up to Alaska and come back down, stop in Victoria. we bike down and I see all of the cruise ships that are parked out there. When I'm out on the beach, I can see them coming down if they'll take the inner passage. And so you can see these massive cruise ships that come in at night and, just see the massive ships and the lights and everything going across. And it's so much fun just to see.
They're gorgeous. They're just gorgeous.
They really are. They're kind of like, I'm a super nerd about it. And I just think that it's like, just the engineering of it all is, I am not an engineer, but just the engineering of it all of just like, how do you get that many people safely here and there, and the tugboats and all this stuff. I have become quite fascinated. Now, I will say that I have been on one cruise, and this was kind of in the mid 90s for my 18th birthday with all of my other friends that I had just graduated high school with. That was like kind of a different experience. And it was
I'm sure.
one that you're like, okay, I don't know that. I think that it was a Carnival ship, and it might've been the Carnival Fantasy or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was just like,
it's a party ship. There's a reason they're called fun ships.
And so every time that I thought, like, it was really fun at 18 years old, but then like, that's my thought, is that's my N of one, of where it's like, okay, I don't really think that I want to be on that ship anymore. I'm sure that my kids are now like, yeah, let's go on that one.
Not the Carnival Fantasy. No.
Yeah.
Not that one. The Mardi Gras. Yes.
Is that what they have now? The Mardi Gras?
I don't know the latest Carnival ship, because while I do cover what those are called contemporary or mainstream cruise lines. So I do cover them, but only the higher end suites.
Yeah.
And so some of their...
Not the ones that my kids would go on. So
yes. And so some of their latest ones have a roller coaster. They've got rock climbing walls. They've got, tons of pools and slides, and you can find all sorts of fun and exciting. Not on the Fantasy.
Wow. Yeah, no, that one was just pretty much just like a casino and a dance club, and that was it. And I guess like, yeah, it was a really interesting experience where I was like, okay, well, I'm not. But now I understand that is absolutely not the way that it is. I have friends that are going on river cruises now, and I've had family and friends who have come up here and have gotten off here at the Port of Victoria to spend a few days or a few hours hanging out with us, and they love it. So this is why I am very excited, so that you can prove me completely wrong about all of this and tell me where I'm wrong, at least, where I'm misremembering all of this. Because on this podcast, I do want to talk to everybody about burnout and about getting away. And as my program director used to call it, there's systole, where you are on and you are completely on and you're thinking about medicine and you're taking care of patients and you're dealing with all of that, but you have to have diastole as well. And so this would be really important for people to find out about this and find out about the different ways, because they may, when they think about going on cruises, they may be thinking about what I have experienced and maybe what they experienced earlier. But now I'm glad you're here to kind of tell us how maybe we need to look at it again. So
yeah, cruising has definitely evolved since the 90s. And it's hard for us to believe that like 1995 was 30 years ago.
And that's the end of the podcast. Thank you.
Yeah. Just think about like what else was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, like, how much has medicine changed? Like, we were still using dial-up internet and the AOL, and you put the CD in the AOL and logging on to the internet that way.
Yeah,
we just had dial-up and weird chat rooms.
A car phone was literally a phone that was like attached to a console on the inside of your car.
And if you had those really big bricks, those were the cool ones. So now, yes, of course, everything is totally different now. So I'm glad you're here to explain to me and everybody else why they should take a look at this and why they should do this.
Just taking a step back in terms of cruising in general, especially you mentioned, your kids. I truly believe that cruising is one of the best family vacations. It doesn't have to be luxury. The value that you get from a cruise vacation is really hard to match on a land vacation. Even the cost of camping, taking a camper, getting on a campground, the cost of maintaining the camper, it's going to rival the cost of a 1-week cruise vacation.
Yeah, I guess that's true because when you think about it, you have to buy the sleeping bags, you have to buy the tent, you have to buy all the utensils to go around it. Here in my neck of the woods, you have to have like all the bear boxes and
Yeah.
you have to, be smart about that. But then, yeah, if you're just going to get an RV, well, that's not just going to get an RV, but if you're going to have an RV, whether you rent it or whatever else, there's a lot of logistics and planning in it.
And that's the least expensive. Camping is the least expensive vacation I can think of. But certainly if you're going to get a hotel, you have to pay for food, you have to pay for other activities, especially these days, the cost of vacationing is substantial.
How is the cost of cruising kind of with all of the inflation that's been happening over the last few years and the hits to the industry during COVID and all of that? Is it kind of rising in par with inflation or is it rising faster, kind of like air travel or hotels or even sometimes Airbnbs?
It depends on what you're looking for. You can get a really high value cruise vacation if you don't want the latest and greatest cruise ship. All of the contemporary and even some of the premium lines. So the contemporary lines, I think of contemporary lines as being Norwegian, Carnival, Royal Caribbean, and MSC. I don't put Disney into that category only because of the cost. The cost of a Disney vacation for a family is going to be more and for fewer days, but you do get the Disney experience. So I put Disney in that premium cruise line category. But Disney's got new ships coming out. All of the ones that I just talked about have new ships coming out. If you want one of those, yes, for a family of 4, that could easily run you $6,000 to $10,000.
Okay. For a week? Is that like a 7-day cruise
for a
typically?
week, for a 7-day. And we're not even talking
okay.
about the cost of transportation. If you're okay with not the latest and greatest, but still a really great ship, you could get a week vacation to probably the same destinations for $5,000 to $6,000.
Really?
For a family of 4. And that's your food, obviously your transportation. You're seeing places that you may never have seen before. There's more entertainment than you can possibly do and free childcare.
Exactly. Yeah. So how does childcare work on that? Is that like they have kids clubs, I assume, and
Yeah.
things like that?
Yeah. Even the premium lines, most of them will have like, even like you want to go up to like a Cunard. The only premium ones that don't have kids club is ones that don't allow, like Virgin. Virgin doesn't allow kids, so there's no kids club. Okay. But Cunard is going to have a kids club. Holland America is going to have a kids club. All of the premium lines and all of the contemporary ones. And they're free. The only childcare that is a cost is, I know Royal Caribbean has what's called a nursery where it's some hourly nominal fee for children under 3. And the other cruise lines might have something similar, but I'm not sure.
But that all is something that is available. So if you just need a couple of hours, that's pretty fantastic.
Yes. Yeah. And depending on the age of your kids, many of them, my youngest, we went on a 10-day Baltic cruise. There were times when we left for port, like we would go out into the port to explore the city. And she said, no, I'd just rather stay in the kids club all day. I'm like, okay, it's fine.
Sure. Yeah. Please. Yeah. Yes. Go right ahead.
Have fun.
No problems.
Yeah. They really enjoy it. There are specialists there. Most of the people that work in those kids clubs have degrees in childhood development. It's not that the housekeepers are doing double duty in the kids club. These are child development specialists that want to and are trained specifically to work in that part of the ship.
I did not know that. That's pretty amazing. I mean, I know that they do want to make sure that the parents feel good, but I didn't know that. That's really great.
Another thing too is I feel like it's hard to find anywhere where you're going to get the level of service that you get on a cruise ship. Obviously, the more luxurious lines, it all just gets ratcheted up. But even on your contemporary cruise line, you're in an inside cabin in the lowest deck. Like you get the cheapest cabin there is. People still want you to have a fantastic vacation. I truly believe that my waiter in the main dining room wants me to have the best dinner of my life every single night.
And you feel like that every time?
I don't feel that I get it every time. No, but they are very committed to
But you feel that you get that level of service, maybe not the greatest meal that you've ever had every time. I get that.
Exactly.
That's preference. But so how do you take it from the contemporary? How do they take it from going the contemporary cruises up to the luxury cruises? Like when you make that jump to what would be the next level? I'm sure that there's always kind of like Holland America or whatever else. But what is that next level up for the people out there that are thinking, all right, well, I've been working really hard recently and maybe I want to step up and go to the next level up and try that out. What would be that next level of?
The first thing I'll say is each cruise line on all levels, they have their own personalities. And so I'm a big believer in booking a cruise through a travel agent. It's really the only type of vacation that I will consistently and universally book through a travel agent. And finding a travel agent that you know and trust and that knows cruising, that you can explain to them what you're looking for so that they can direct you to the best cruise line for you. I recommend first, if you don't have kids, unless you really want all those bells and whistles, all the sort of like adrenaline stuff, like the surf simulator and the rock climbing wall and the giant slides, then you don't need a contemporary cruise line. And absolutely do not cruise during school breaks because it's just going to be inundated. You're going to be inundated
that is a
with
no-go. So for everybody
if you
out
don't
there,
have kids and you don't have to cruise during a school break, I wouldn't do it. If you
not inclusive of summer though, right? Just like don't go at spring break, fall break times.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
No, I mean, in summer, there's usually a lot of kids. And if you can do it like in that, I do cruise during hurricane season and that's a
choice. Yeah.
That's a topic for another podcast. But if you can cruise like when this weather's still good, maybe end of August, early September, or right before school ends, beginning of May, there's going to be a big difference between just the number of kids. If you want to be with kids, look, I'm a pediatrician. I love kids. But sometimes I don't need 1,000 of them running around.
But you're also a pediatrician, and so you don't need to always be around kids.
Right?
Yeah, I get it.
If you're looking for a child-free experience, or not a child-free, but fewer kids, then I would bypass the contemporary lines, go to the premium lines. And then it really depends. If you're looking for a fantastic live music experience, Holland America. If you're going to Alaska and you want just an incredible experience, Princess. If you want like modern luxury, Celebrity. And then if you want swanky, Virgin. And Disney, obviously, if you just love Disney. If you love Disney and really want a very high level of service, plus you love all the characters, then absolutely Disney is the way to go. Then, and all of those have kids club. Maybe you do take your kids. If they don't care that there aren't 100 or 200 kids in the kids club for them to play with, then take your kids.
And so what is it that you get when you go to these next levels of, service? Is it just about decor, or is it about the food options, obviously the music options? That sounds really interesting.
It definitely, the decor takes on a sleeker, more sophisticated style, sometimes older, sometimes newer. Sometimes when I say older, sometimes it's that like old sort of like wood and very like seafaring style. And some of them have more sleek, modern, a little bit more white, chrome, square edges kind of style. The food generally, it's not just better, but it's the way it's presented. I'll give you an example. We'll compare Royal Caribbean and Celebrity. Those are the two cruise lines that I know best. When I go to get coffee in the morning at Royal Caribbean, I'm standing in the line and give my order like at Starbucks, and then I wait. And then maybe they give me my name, and then I wait, and then somebody calls my name and I go up and I get my coffee. And if I want something to eat, I stand in a different line. Maybe there are some like bench seats to sit in for me to enjoy my coffee and maybe a small, breakfast sandwich or pastry. I'm not even talking about the buffet. If I go to the equivalent place on Celebrity, I still stand in a line, but the same person asks me what my drink order is and if I want anything to eat, a pastry or a sandwich. They ask me if I want it for here or to go. If I want it for here, I can sit down at a table and someone brings me a mug with a little biscotti, and my food is not in a paper bag, but actually on a plate. I don't have to stand in line. I can sit at the table and a server will come up to me and ask me if I want my coffee and my pastry.
So as opposed to going to like a walk up at a Starbucks, you're going to more of a cafe setting and something like that.
Better said.
A little bit higher level of service.
Exactly. And it's other small things. Most contemporary lines don't do turn down service twice a day. They clean your room once, like at a regular hotel. It's very traditional in cruise lines that they actually service your room twice. And once you get to higher levels, they are going to service your room twice. They're going to turn down your bed, maybe put a little chocolate on your pillow, maybe put a little, fresh flowers in your room. There's usually a smaller crew to passenger ratio. I'm sorry, there's a larger crew to passenger ratio. There's going to be more touch points. There's just going to be more people available for you to ask for anything you need.
And yeah, like what are the sizes? I mean, I have seen like the massive ships coming here into Victoria where there's 4,000 or 5,000 people, like the really big ones. So what are these luxury cruise lines? I know that there's like all kinds of sizes, but what do they typically run? Is this like hundreds of passengers to multiple hundreds of passengers, or is it still in the thousands?
So your premium is probably going to be more like 2,000 to 3,000, but you can get to some luxury lines where it's 100 people. 100 people, obviously it's still a smaller boat, but in that 100 to maximum 500 people range. That's when you're really getting into the luxury and ultra luxury.
And then you talked about Virgin, there's no kids there. So obviously that's probably got its own different feel. What are some of the things that the different personalities, you said Holland America, like what kind of music do they have when they're their live music audio files out there?
Holland America used to have a relationship with Lincoln Square. And so in New York, you could see performances from Lincoln Square on your cruise ship. They've got a blues club and they've changed it around recently, especially with some of their newer builds. So anybody who wants to write in can fact check me. What's the email to write in?
Yes, rob@interestingmd.com, or yours, obviously. You can.
luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. You can write in to fact check us at any time. Or leave a comment. We're not shy.
Yeah.
Totally
love
fine.
it.
But there was BB King's Jazz Club where they obviously not BB King, but they had jazz musicians. So Holland America really has a lot of live music. And it's one of the things that they had a relationship with Rolling Stones. I think that is gone. They had a rock and roll. It was not a bar, but they had a venue. They had a venue that was just dedicated to rock and roll. You really want to talk to your travel agent and get a sense of what are these cruise lines known for. Princess is, like I said, it's sort of known for being the cruise line to go to Alaska on. They actually own some resorts in Alaska so that if you wanted to extend your cruise into Alaska, you could. I think Holland America does as well. Princess is going to be more of understated luxury. They are considered the cruise line to go to Alaska. I believe they've been going to Alaska the longest. It's either Princess or Holland America. They really do pride themselves. I keep saying understated luxury, but that's really what it is. You aren't going to find, like all of the others, you're going to find a kids club, and they actually are trying to attract more families, but you're not going to find, those rock climbing walls and roller coasters on there.
Now, I would imagine that since you're saying that there are some understated luxury places, that there are some other less understated or more extravagant. I've never flown Virgin. I've never gone on their cruise lines, but I have stayed at one of their hotels. It seems a little bit more overstated, more than understated. Yeah. It's not really a word to describe that, but what are those cruise lines like then? So you step onto one of those. What is that like?
Yeah. So you step on to, we're going to go to the next tier, and we'll go to Silver Sea or Seabourn or Regent, Oceana. They all have their own specific sort of style. Here's where you're getting closer to the top of the pyramid. So there's not that much of a difference. I love Seabourn. Seabourn is the cruise line that allows you to have caviar 24/7, anywhere and everywhere. They have what's called caviar in the surf. Often they will dock by a private beach in the Caribbean, and there's this super luxurious beach barbecue, and the staff members will come out into the water and have champagne and caviar on a surfboard. And so you're swimming in the ocean and eating champagne and caviar. And so Oceana is known for just the most amazing food. Really, just many of them have, I think it's Silver Sea, but don't quote me on this one, has a Thomas Keller restaurant. Many of them have, if not Michelin star chefs, they have people who have gone far. There was one contestant, like Master Chef Showdown or one of these shows, who is a chef on one of these cruise lines. I think he's a Silver Sea chef, but again, some of those details I don't hold on to.
Yeah, that's okay. I mean, look it up. But so that's kind of like the next level of service that you're looking at. I think Silver Sea, I see all of the advertisements. Those are the ones that kind of go to Antarctica and kind of do those higher end. I mean, you're obviously not getting Carnival Cruise Lines going to the contemporaries going down to Antarctica.
Yeah. Not a lot. And here's a tip if you really want to go to Antarctica on a cruise. Someone just told me this number today that I would fact check. 150 people. You have to be on a ship with less than 150 people or you can't actually get off. So if you see a cruise line with 1,000 or 2,000 people that says they're going to Antarctica, you're going to sail on by and you're going to wave to the penguins and you're not getting off and stepping foot on the continent.
I did not know that.
Yeah. It's like a environmental, protection.
Yeah, I mean, that seems reasonable. That's a pretty fragile environment. That makes sense, but I did not know that. Sorry to hijack here, but that is kind of one of the cruises that I have looked into because it's pretty amazing. It seems like something I'd really want to do. But
yeah, it's amazing. I'd love for anybody. I had somebody on the podcast that talked about her cruise to the North Pole, and that was pretty. If you haven't listened to that one, it's actually worth a YouTube because she did a PowerPoint presentation and in it, she says she wants to go to space. And it's like, you don't have to go to space to go to space, thinking about how far the North Pole is. She actually was on the Blue Origins. I keep wanting to call it Blue Horizons. She was on the Blue Origin crew this past Saturday and went to space.
No way.
Yeah. Yeah. Dr. Gretchen Green.
That's amazing.
Yep. So if you want to hear about the North Pole from somebody who just went to space, luxurycruising.net.
It's literally the two furthest places that you can get. You can on Earth, you can go to the North Pole and then you can go to space and cross over the Kármán line on a Blue Origin rocket. So, okay, that's really pretty cool. All right.
But back to cruising.
Yeah. Now, fine, we've got to go talk about cruising. All right. So we've reached that level. So what are the next levels? Are we nearing the peak of the pyramid, you said?
We're getting close. Next are what I call the sort of small luxury ship. And these are going to be like Paul Gauguin, which is one ship, and all they do is French Polynesia. Again, my numbers, I don't know, but it's like in the hundreds. We're talking about cruise lines that are really in the hundreds to 100. Emerald Cruise Lines, that is going to be around 100 to 200. All suite ships, right? It's not a 200 square foot little box you're in. Everyone's going to have a balcony. Everyone's going to have a butler that will come and be at your beck and call essentially 24 hours a day. You're going to have, a nice bathroom. Not if you've ever been on a contemporary cruise line, most of those bathrooms, like the shower, people call it like the tube. Remember the tubes? I don't know how many people remember the tube that you would put your money in to go to the bank, right? Where it would get sucked through. Yeah,
the vacuum tubes. Yeah. Well, everybody would still know what they are because the hospitals still use them.
That's right.
So you fax something over, which nobody who never works in a hospital knows what a fax machine is anymore.
Right.
But so we use the vacuum tube system just like in the hospital where we ship medications and sometimes blood. Still not happy about that, but sure.
So that's sort of like what you're showering in. But no, This is like marble bathrooms with double vanity sinks, actual branded soaps. Like a lot of cruise lines have a relationship with a specific high-end soap store. I know that there's a fancy name for people who make soaps and stuff like that. And they use that exclusively for all of they all have, little things like it's little things in your room, like having your own espresso maker. That seems so small, but at 4:00 in the afternoon when I really could use an espresso and I just don't feel like going anywhere, like tired, having one in my room is a beautiful thing. And knowing that my cabin steward has made sure that I have water for my coffee maker all the time is just a beautiful thing.
Just those small things that it's just about convenience. Whenever you want it, you need that convenience.
Right.
And with,
Right.
Again, like, yeah, you have your own steward, you have your own butler.
Beyond that, also, the experiences and the places you visit are also a step above. We talked about private beach barbecue. That's almost universal, right? Like the ships are smaller, so they can get into smaller islands, smaller ports that a 6,000 passenger ship just can't get into. The cruise lines have relationships with these places so that if there is this little beautiful beach and a little alcove that no other bigger ships can't get to, they can park. Maybe you have to take what's called a tender or smaller ship to get to the beach,
Right.
but it's your own private beach, and they set up food or a barbecue or whatever it is. The excursions, a lot of them create private excursions in port. Not these days, but let's say you're going to St. Petersburg. They will create sort of like a private event, either at an amazing museum or at the ballet. Many of the higher end river cruise ships will have after hours experiences at a museum or special amazing seats at the opera.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
These are all things I had no idea about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you're on, and the podcast actually that dropped. So this week, this is June 1st that we're recording. A friend of mine was on the podcast talking about her Danube River cruise on Viking. And she said, and Viking is definitely a higher end cruise line. And she said every single person they encountered was a Viking employee. The contemporary cruise lines are going to partner with tour groups that are on those islands that can sometimes be hit or miss. But all of the people you encounter, the bus drivers, the buses are owned by Viking. So as you're going from the ship to your excursion, whoever is your guide at the excursion, those are all Viking employees. So they are held.
So they have more
to
control and have like a Viking level experience.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. So have we hit the peak of the pyramid yet? Or is there like
There's one more, the tippy top of the pyramid.
For those of you out there who just got your big quarterly bonus, this is the one for you. So hold on.
So what we have now is Ritz-Carlton's yachts. And these are absolutely gorgeous, under 100 passengers, huge suites, just your Ritz-Carlton experience, but on a yacht. And what Ritz-Carlton has said is they want to blur the lines between cruising and private yachting. So any below deck fans like me out there, if you're thinking you were like, oh my gosh, this below deck experience, like that would be amazing. Ritz-Carlton is trying to get there, but on a larger ship. And Four Seasons is coming. And if anybody like me follows cruising, they know Captain Kate from Celebrity, who just left Celebrity. This is a kind of a ship captain influencer. She became kind of an influencer during the pandemic, has a huge following. She just left Celebrity, and now she is going to be the first captain for the Four Seasons yachts. First captain to lead an all-female, whatever they call the officers on the deck crew.
And Captain Kate, if you're watching right now, you need to get on the Luxury Cruising Podcast. Okay.
Love to have you on the podcast.
Just luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. I'm sure that she'll find a spot for you.
Yeah.
That sounds like a pretty amazing woman, actually.
Yeah, she is. She's pretty
great.
cool.
Okay. So now we have like all of that. And this is kind of, is it the same thing when you go to Europe and the river cruises, and I would assume Asia and things, they just kind of go all over the place.
Yeah.
And so if somebody wants to find this out, you just pick your personality, you pick your I guess you choose your destination first, right? For people that want to get started, how do they do that?
That's a really good question. Like, if you want to get started on cruising, I think figure out what it is that you want to see. What's the experience that you want? Do you want something like Europe? I can tell you, until I took my first European cruise, I didn't really understand the point of cruising to Europe. But now I do, because it's not about seeing the large cities. To me, a European cruise is not about seeing Rome or Barcelona or Berlin. It's about seeing smaller places that I never would take a vacation to, but are absolutely amazing. Figure out where it is that you want to go and what kind of experience. Do you want that big mega ship experience? Do you want it to be multi-generational with everything from, your grandparents to their great grandkids? Or do you want it to be more of a laid back, adults only, highly catered and luxurious experience? And absolutely find a good travel agent that knows cruising. Ask around, ask your friends. You can tag me. You can ask me. I talk to people about cruising all the time. And so you can find me on LinkedIn or Facebook and you can ask me, hey, I want to take a cruise. What should I do first? Who should my travel agent be? Got a number of really good travel agent friends that all have different personalities. And so they're not the best for one person isn't for everyone. Ask for a good travel agent that knows cruising.
Okay. So you need to know where you want to go. I guess your budget, obviously, about what you want to do. Before we go, I do want to ask what is the craziest thing that's happened to you or that you've seen, experienced, heard about on a cruise?
Well, I mean, the craziest thing.
And if it's nothing, that is actually reassuring, of course, with every doctor, they always ask what's the craziest thing you've ever seen? Well, it's always something up somebody's butt in the ER.
Yeah.
That's always been the craziest thing, right?
Yeah.
But we all have that one story. So,
yeah. Well, I could tell you the craziest thing that happened to us.
Okay.
Okay. So this was on this Baltic cruise. And we decided, so when we first booked the cruise, we booked it because, there was two things. So first, we were in a COVID special booking season. So we booked a lot of cruises. And so this was a 10-day Baltic cruise. And it overnighted in St. Petersburg. And we were like, we got to do this. By the time, though, between the time we booked it and by the time we left, the war had broken out and still nobody is cruising into Russia. They traded the overnight in St. Petersburg to the overnight in Riga. And we were not going to do 2 nights in Riga. I mean, there wasn't enough for us to do. But the thing about Riga is that it's very close to Lithuania. My husband is Lithuanian and he still has cousins in Vilnius.
Okay.
And so it's about a 4-hour drive. We got in, we rented a car, we drove to Vilnius, we stayed overnight, we met his cousin for breakfast, drove back, but we had to drop the rental car off at the airport. And because the ship was staying overnight, usually when the ship docks, it docks like in the center of town. But because it was staying overnight, it wasn't in the center of town. It was sort of like in this industrial port outside the city. We get to the airport, we drop the car off, and we're starting to have a little bit of trouble getting like the version of Uber, which is Bolt. We're having a little bit of trouble getting our Bolt to understand where it is that we need to go. So we've got the rental car guys talking to him, and we finally figure we got like our phones and our maps where we're trying to like zoom into this port, this industrial port.
Right.
And so he kind of figures out like, okay, I know where we're going. At this point, we are like, I'm somebody who gets back to the cruise ship with like 2 hours before the ship we're supposed to leave, because the ships will leave. Like they're not going to hang out for you. And so I'm already a little bit nervous. So we get in this car and we start going. And of course it starts raining. We're like, oh, this is beautiful. But he's following the map and we get into what could only be described as like woods. I mean, we're on, I think the road was paved, but in my mind, it's a dirt road with woods everywhere.
Oh,
and
no.
Suddenly we see a bus. We're like, oh my gosh, this has to be the bus that takes people from the center of town to the cruise ship. So we're like, follow that bus. So the guy gets in behind the bus. But the funniest part is, so it's an industrial port. The bus goes through like a gate. And we're just like, just stay behind the bus.
Yeah.
like bum rush the gate. There's people like behind us going, no, stop. And we're like, just keep going. Finally, we see the other thing too was thankfully we could see the cruise ship. So finally we like get to where we're supposed to like get off. We give the guy all of it. We're just like, take all of our money.
This will help get you out of jail later.
Take it. The people are coming. They're like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm dropping them off. They're on the cruise ship. We just get out of the car. It's like pouring rain. We like run onto the ship. We passed by the bus. Like this had to have been the last bus coming back from the port, but we were like, it was hilarious. We were like, it was like we were in some spy movie, but that is probably the funniest thing and like the biggest adventure we ever went on a cruise ship.
Okay. So that's great. And that actually is really nice because it's nothing horrific has ever happened. You've never been part of anything like tragic or awful. And it is just, life is just easy. You get on, you go do your excursions, you get off, you go do your excursions, you get on, all of that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I have a lot of travel stories that involve just enormous amounts of hassle and struggle, but they're all kind of created by me and my wife. So our stupidity. So, or let's just say adventure.
Adventurous nature.
Adventurous nature. Yeah, it was our adventurous nature to get stuck in an Italian town and things like that. But it's all fine. It all works out, right?
You're back home now.
Yeah, we made it. It's fine.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you coming on, and thanks so much for taking the time. Do you mind just one more time telling people how they can reach out to you, how they can find your podcast, your YouTube, and everything else? Because this is you have really fascinating conversations. And if you were at all curious about luxury cruising or cruising at all, she's your spot here.
Thank you. Yeah. So it's all, I make things really simple. It's all luxury cruising. luxurycruising.net/podcast. You can find me on LinkedIn under luxury cruising, Facebook under luxury cruising. I'm working on the Instagram luxury cruising, and even TikTok.
Awesome. Okay. Dr. Crystal Sodaitis, thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I hope that I can talk to you again about all the different coaching and your transition over from clinical medicine to working for a health plan, because these are all things that doctors do. And I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, before you go, if you're enjoying this content, I would so appreciate a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, there's a link to a form in the show notes, or you can email me at luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. That's luxurycruisingpodcast@gmail.com. I hope to hear from you soon.